Okay, so I'm here with Emma McPhilmey. Thanks for coming on the show.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Now, I think I discovered you first through the Riverdance show, where you're the musical director.
Hmm.
But then I started following you on Instagram as well, and I'm really impressed by the stuff that you're doing over there.
Oh, thank you.
You seem to be able to move between different genres quite effortlessly without losing your voice, so to speak, which is
Hmm.
something I talk about a lot because I think it's important for musicians to, especially these days when we're expected to work with all these different things,
Yeah.
that we don't lose our voice.
Yeah.
And I think you're doing a great job.
Oh, thanks very much.
So the main thing I wanted to talk about today is your role in the Riverdance show, because I'm a huge fan of the Riverdance show, and I've been a fan of that show for way longer than I've been into folk music.
Oh,
In a
wow.
way, that's kind of my first meeting with folk music, so to speak.
Okay.
So I'm quite envious of your of your gig there.
Of the role.
Um, and could also be interesting hearing about your experiences as a musician with a classical background, which I'm guessing you have,
Yes. Yeah.
working in all these different realms that you're doing.
Hmm.
But before we go into any of that, why don't you quickly introduce yourself and tell us about your musical background?
Sure. Okay. So I started playing the saxophone when I was 12. I initially played flute first. I think I was 7, and I took to it really quickly. And really, really enjoyed doing music at school and at college. And my teacher suggested I audition for a music college, like a performance degree, which I had no idea existed. I had no idea about that you could even do performance as a main study at university or anything.
No.
So I auditioned for 2 colleges, not thinking that I would get a place. It was just to see what would happen. And I got into the Royal Northern College of Music, which is one of the best in the country for saxophone. I had no idea. I didn't know the teacher. I didn't know anything about music college. Just walked in completely blind and just played how I played. And they offered
That
me a place, and I studied there for 4 years, and I did an extra year, like a
that's in
diploma
Manchester,
year
is it?
after that. Yeah, in Manchester, yeah.
Oh,
And yeah, I just loved it. And I had no prior knowledge of like advanced technique on the instrument or anything, so I just absorbed all the information that they were giving me with no kind of ideas of my own, and then was able to build on that. And yeah, and then I got my first Riverdance gig in my 3rd year of college out of 4 years undergrad.
oh, really?
So I was kind of gigging from about age of 21 in a professional sense.
Hmm. But your course, that would be all classical music, right?
Yeah, I mean, they had big bands and stuff, and like pop session orchestras and things, and you could kind of get involved in those. But it was the main focus really was classical. So yeah, I was building on classical technique and repertoire and things throughout the degree.
What about folk music? Did you have any experience with that prior to the Riverdance thing?
No, no experience of any folk music. Nope. So I literally was dropped in the deep end with that one.
Great. So then I'm curious about how did you land the gig?
So I was playing in an orchestra in college, and the conductor heard me play, and his friend, I think a friend of his was working with someone in the office of the show and knew that they were looking for a saxophone player. So he put my name forward, and I got this random email from the office of the show. And I thought it was a joke because I was young. I didn't know. And I thought, oh gosh, this seems
Too good to
too
be true?
good. Yeah.
Mm.
And then I spoke to my teacher, and he said, no, Emma, that's real. You need to reply. So I was like, oh gosh, okay. So I responded and sent in an audition tape. And I think there were 3 of us that auditioned, and I got a phone call saying, you've got the gig. You need to come to Dublin in 2 weeks. Please memorise the whole show. So I
Huh.
was like, oh my goodness. So I had to just get out of college for that whole time, postpone all my exams, and memorise the whole show in 2 weeks.
Huh. Sounds great and terrifying.
It was a lot. Yeah, it was scary.
No, I feel like we before we go into the details of this, we should maybe let people know what Riverdance is if they don't, if
Hmm.
they're not familiar with it, because I think that the word Riverdance conjures up images in many people's mind, but they don't necessarily know what it is, because I think many people think that that's the name of traditional Irish dance.
Yes.
Which it is not. It's the name of a show that originated in. Well, please arrest me if I'm saying anything wrong, but I think it started as an interval act for the Eurovision Song Contest back in 1994.
Yeah.
Where Irish composer Bill Whelan was commissioned to make a piece of music, in which they made it into sort of a theatrical dance performance, which had like elements of Irish traditional music, but also elements of bunch of other things like Eastern European music, pop music, classical music, and it was a huge success. So they decided to take it on the road, and I think it's been on the road ever since.
Yeah, this was the 25th year now. This year was supposed to be the 25th year of the tour, yeah.
Yeah. Huh. And how long have you been with the show at this point?
This would have been my 4th year with the show. I joined in 2016, so just after I turned 21.
Huh. That's it's impressive. But I'm guessing you didn't start out as musical director?
Yeah, I did actually.
You did?
That's So there were four of us girls in the band in 2016, and I was actually the youngest out of all 4 of us, and I got pulled into the office and they said, would you take on the role of musical director for this touring? Because there's 2 tours usually. There's normally one that goes to America, and then one that will do like the UK or China, or
But is it two different crews, or is it the same people doing both tours?
2 different kind of sub companies.
I see. Yeah.
So I was asked to direct this tour. So that was quite a big responsibility.
Yeah.
For my first gig.
So how big is the band these days? Because like I mean, I've seen the videos of the shows from the 90s, and it's like 20 people in the band or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you don't necessarily have the budget for that anymore, but I don't know.
Yeah, there's now 4 of us. So there's a fiddle player, a soprano sax, and then Irish instruments, so pipes, whistle, concertina, and drum kit. And that's it.
Yeah. But I'm guessing you have some stuff on tracks as well?
Yeah, the orchestral tracks are playing out front, and obviously we have in-ears as well. So yeah, it doesn't feel like that bare or anything.
No, but are you responsible for anything to do with the tracks, or do you just like deal with the musicians? Sorry, I'm rephrasing the question. What exactly is your role as a musical director of the show?
So I basically have to manage the band and just make sure, because every venue we get in, we obviously have to sound check levels, call rehearsals at the beginning of tours and things, and make sure that everyone's doing their bit properly. I'll often be backstage if I'm not on stage at the time, and listen to everyone's mixes just to make sure that they're hearing what they need to hear, and just to make sure that the quality of performance and the music is up to a good standard. And I'm also the kind of middle man, if you like. So the band ask me, or if they need anything, they'll talk to me, and then I'll talk to management, or you know what I mean, if it's just so I'd be the head of department in terms of the band, and there's various heads of departments with dancing and tech and front of house and things like that. So we have meetings and things, so mostly just communication and making sure everyone's okay.
Cool. Do you have any like artistic freedom when it comes to the music itself, or is that just like kind of set in stone in a way?
I do have some. I mean, because I've played with quite a few different band members now, and I communicate with Bill Whelan as well, like regularly when the tours are happening.
He's still he's still
Definitely
involved in the show. Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So he'll pop in and see the show, and if he wants to make any changes, he'll speak to me, and then I'll tell the guys. But in terms of improvisation and stuff, if I particularly like the way someone's played something, or maybe the opposite, then they kind of trust me to make the judgment there and make the calls. But we do get quite a lot of freedom in terms of soloing and stuff. Improvising's a fairly big part of the show as well. So that's nice.
Cool. And and like it's not easy music to play. It's fairly
It's
challenging
not.
stuff.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of notes, and it's
Yeah,
fast.
fast, and also like a lot of different meters as well. Like, I mean, I play a fair bit of Irish music myself, but which is challenging in itself. But at least it's usually in 4/4 time or 6/8 or something like that. But in Riverdance, Bill Whelan he wrote a lot of stuff in 5/4 and 7 and all of those. Like, I think he got inspired by Eastern European rhythms and he kind of blended everything together to really cool thing. But sounds very difficult.
It is. I mean, obviously the amount of times I've played the show, and it becomes just a second nature. But
Of course.
yeah, at the beginning, there's obviously a lot of repetition and things, but it's a lot of notes, and the changing time signatures and kind of emphasizing specific beats and just making sure you're super tight in with the track can be quite challenging for sure, especially if you're new.
Yeah, and also like playing with the track. That's not that easy in itself. Like, because if you just a group of musicians playing live, you can always like find your
adapt.
But when there's a track, you need to be like 100% all the time.
I mean, you're either there or you're not.
No.
But the sound guys are great, and you all have your own mix, and we have a lot of practice time and things, so it is good, and it feels kind of like a safety thing as well, because not that we ever do, but if you fall off a little bit, you can jump back in, and it's no problem.
No. So, so you've been with the show for 4 years. Have anything changed over those 4 years? Like, you said this was the 25th anniversary. Are you changing things up for the anniversary?
Yeah, so we actually, there was a 25th album released of
really?
the whole show music, kind of revamped, and it included loads of musicians that have been with the show over the last 25 years. And I was lucky enough to feature on that and do kind of the main solo parts on sax. I went over to Bill's studio in Connemara, and we recorded a load of tracks there, which was released in December. And they've now used that soundtrack as the new soundtrack on stage. So it's weird. I'm like playing with myself in my ears. So that's changed, and the set's completely modernised. Costume changes. The band has changed members over the 4 years since I've been there. So yeah, there's quite a lot that kind of changes, and it's always,
because I would think that to keep a show on the road for that long, you kind of need to make some changes.
Yeah.
Because when I watch the video, like the live things from the 90s, it looks very 90s.
Yeah,
with the costumes and all, so.
And the backdrops, they were.
Yeah, very much. Yeah, very much like it looks like Eurovision Song Contest from the 90s.
Yeah, I mean they had like still images at the back per track in the show, but now they have like the whole back of the stage is like a big LED screen, and it's like HD images that like move around and things, and so it's like. The lights are blinding, like it's so modern now.
Cool. I hope I get a chance to see it at some point.
Yeah, definitely, it's worth watching.
So, but I'm guessing you're not touring much at the moment.
No, so I was supposed to be on the road. I would have just finished up this year in Belgium. Literally, probably I think it was a couple of days ago. I would have been finished, but we managed. We did the 25th anniversary show in the 3 Arena in Dublin in February, and then the SSE in Belfast, and we managed 1 week of the UK tour, which was supposed to be 15 weeks, and then we were sent home, and that was it.
Pretty weird, eh?
Yeah, it was tricky.
And I'm guessing they haven't scheduled, like there's no plan. They don't know when they can get back on the road.
Well, there's actually the UK tour is online, and it's been rescheduled for next August.
Okay.
So I mean, it's nice for us to have a goal to sort of work towards with getting back on tour, but I guess you just don't know, do you, with what's going on.
But has the show been your like main, like your full-time gig basically, or?
No, not really. It was only recently that, because a lot of the tour, because they took a year or two out to revamp everything and then kind of put everyone back on the road, and it was going to be for quite a while. So the last couple of years I've done probably one tour every year-ish, to China, I did UK, I've done various bits in Dublin and other parts of Ireland. And so, yeah, I would do that probably once to twice a year, but then otherwise I'd be doing loads of other things, like, gigging in a pop style or classical recitals, teaching concertos. So yeah, there's loads of different bits that I do. That's not my main focus, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, I see. Just to jump all over the place, like, I mean, you have a classical background, but as I said, you seem to be able to move quite easily between different genres, which I mean, I know a lot of classical musicians that don't do that at all.
Yeah.
Why do you think that you're able to work with all these different genres? Has it always been there, or?
I think when I was at school, I was always keen to get up and do a solo, even if it was terrible. And I could always play quite fast, so I would always sort of be the one at the front, like giving it some, even if it was rubbish. But I had the confidence just to put myself out there, which is good as a young kid, I think. But yeah, I kind of sidelined it all. I mean, when I was at university, I was classical, and that was that. And I feel I'm quite ambitious in that I could kind of, I put myself in like 5 years' time, where did I want to be? And I wanted to be a classical soloist, and that was in my brain. So I made sure I did whatever I needed to do in terms of improve technique and expand your repertoire, commission composers, because I knew that was all part of it, to get to that point. And I did, and then I thought, I do need to make money as well. And there's not a great, unless you're really high flying and I don't know, like a saxophone professor at a university or a conservatoire or something like that, you have to teach, really, and you have to gig.
Yeah, because like it's a bit tricky with classical saxophone, right? Because there's not that many gigs. Like if you're a violin player, there's always an orchestra you could apply for, but the saxophone, like you kind of need to be a soloist or a part of a or a successful saxophone group or something.
Yeah, like a chamber group. Yeah, and yeah. So I at this time, I needed money, and so I thought, right, well, I need to do some pop gigs and stuff. So I remember buying a mouthpiece, which is like, the pop sort of sound, because you swap mouthpieces depending on what style you're playing. And I just started gigging, and as every gig I got better and more confident with improvising, and picked up some teaching, and it kind of came from there. And then with my platform online, I was very much, this is my classical soloist platform, and I would do like practice videos or tutorials or whatever. And over lockdown especially, I listen to classical music, but it's not what I mainly listen to. I listen to folk, and that's come through influences from the show, from meeting other trad musicians and stuff. So I thought, why would I suppress all these other interests just to keep that, to pigeonhole myself? So I thought, no, okay, break it all down, do whatever you want, whatever you enjoy, put it out there and see what the response is.
So you're saying that prior to the lockdown thing, your social platforms was mainly classical?
Yeah.
But now you kind of, now you're experimenting with all sorts of stuff?
Yeah.
And how's the response been from like your followers and people who are on your pages?
It's been good. I've been putting out some like, I guess, folk fusion stuff, and that's become quite popular. Especially, if I do covers of more folky bands and stuff, they've really enjoyed watching kind of my spin on their music, if you see what I mean. And sax players who are classical have sort of seen it and got in touch and said that it is refreshing to see someone that has studied classical, because I didn't really study jazz or pop or folk or anything.
No.
But, I think if your ears are good enough and you know what sound you want to make, you can open yourself up to so many different genres. And I think it gives people like more of a push to do it themselves, and to not be so stuck into one area.
yeah, so I mean, it definitely seems like you're able to inspire a lot of sax players from what I see that you're doing with your challenge and stuff.
Yeah,
Do you want to talk a bit about that? Because you're recording an
sure.
album as well, aren't you?
Yeah, we are. So it's with a composer named Jenny Watson, and she wrote me a piece, like a classical recital piece, for a performance I gave last year, and from that, I recorded bits of it, and people have been like, what is this piece? Who is this composer? And I said to her, we should release your music, and I was planning to record it live because I have a duo partner who's a pianist, and we were going to do video recordings and put them online, but obviously then lockdown happened, so we couldn't do that. So I said to her, right, well, people need to know of you, your music's brilliant, let's make demo videos and release them online, and you record a backing track rather than get a pianist, so that people can have access to the music and practice and perform it with, whilst being on their own, but they have all these different instruments going on, so it's like a fun practice tool, if you see what I mean. And then I said, well, also, why don't we make it more of an online community? So you record your video, you upload it, you use the hashtag we've created, which is lock the sax down, and then they're all in one place and everyone can watch all these different videos, and loads of people got involved from all over the world, and it's become quite popular. So we've had to churn out these demos every week and pick a bit of music to make available for free, and because of the responses we thought, right, well, we should make a CD, so we're going to put all these tracks and do them professionally, and release them as an album. So, if anything, it's a nice thing to come out of lockdown with a CD and a nice project.
Yeah, great. Like, it's pretty smart marketing move as well.
Yeah, I didn't really think of it like that. I just thought, well, she needs to get her music out there. People need to hear it. And I've actually seen some Irish dancers do, they create a step or a routine and then they share it, and then people put their videos on, and I thought, we could do something like that with music and saxophone. So that was where the idea sort of came from.
Cool. When will the album be released, you think?
Before the end of the year. Definitely. Yeah.
Cool. So what else have you been up to during lockdown?
What have I been doing? I've been doing a little bit of online teaching. And what's nice about that is, you can teach anywhere in the world. So I've been teaching some young students in America, and
we're so lucky to have the internet, aren't we?
I know.
Like
I don't know what we would have done without it.
Yeah, like imagine if this happened back in 1992 or something.
I mean, we are lucky. Like, at least we're not isolated or cut off from, all our musical friends and things. You can still get some inspiration online. And now gyms are open, so I've enjoyed being back in the gym because I really miss that. I think it's important to keep active and stuff. And yeah, I live in the countryside, so I'm lucky that I could be going for walks and things. And just really, to be honest, finding new styles of music and playing in loads of different styles and getting into sort of folk and jazz, pop and things like that. So yeah, it's been actually really good to hone in on different skills over this time.
Yeah, I think if you're able to actually use this time in a productive way, like for me, it's been sort of a good period, but I've always been the sort of guy who, like, I'm able to like keep myself occupied, you know what I mean? Like start my own projects, and you seem to be a similar type as well, like with your, all your projects. But I know that many people, they kind of depend on outside. They need to be brought into projects.
Yeah.
So I think many of those people might have a hard time these days, but.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, is this podcast been going on over lockdown? Was it a lockdown project?
It's a result of the lockdown, yeah.
Yeah. See, it's good, isn't it? You come up with these ideas and you
don't
have time normally to do it.
No, because I've been thinking about it for a long time, but as you say, you never have time to do these things, but now I had time.
Yeah.
So now the $1 million question: how do I get the gig at the Riverdance show? do they do like auditions for the musicians, or do you have to know someone?
Do you know, I think it's a bit of both, really. If they're looking for a, fiddle player or sax player, I think they normally ask close contacts, or, if they needed someone and I knew of someone, then I could suggest someone,
It's usually how it goes.
So it's just how it goes, yeah. But yeah, it's definitely, I'm definitely very grateful for the opportunity with the show, for sure. I mean, and I don't know, do you do much improvising when you're playing and stuff?
Yeah, I have a background as a jazz musician. Actually, that's my education.
Oh wow! So you studied jazz as in undergrad level?
I'm not exactly sure what undergrad means, but I have a bachelor's degree in jazz
Yeah.
improvisation, so that's kind of my musical education.
Oh
Before
wow!
that.
And so how did that kind of develop into what you do now?
Well, I'm not even sure what I'm doing now, but it's a long story. But like for some reason, I just got tired of jazz,
Really?
and just quit playing altogether. And then I discovered folk music, and moved to Ireland, and kind of just started over completely.
Wow.
Because I mean, since I had like a good knowledge about jazz, I was like, so many other musical genres are based on jazz, right? So when you understand jazz, it's kind of easy to go into different sorts of pop and blues and funk, soul, all of these things,
Yeah.
even hip hop. But with the folk thing, I had to like start over completely on scratch. Like that's how it felt
Yeah.
anyway, because the musical language didn't have anything in common with what I already knew. But I was just so much in love with the music, so I felt like I had no choice. So I'm kind of in a similar boat like you. I'm juggling all these different genres and trying to figure out who am I in all this. But that's just how it is.
So
And like,
you live in Ireland now?
no, I spent 2 years in Galway on the west coast, but I'm back in Norway now, so
Okay.
enjoying the lockdown here.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I'd be really interested to see how having such a good knowledge of jazz. I mean, you're saying it's completely different. You've had to start from scratch, but I mean, it must give you so much freedom to. Your ears must be pretty good.
Well,
to pick stuff up.
Yeah, well, I have the one thing that helped me is I have a good understanding of harmony, because that's something I see with especially melody players in folk music, maybe in classical music, I'm not sure, but they don't feel the chords in the same way that I do. Especially not folk musicians, but sometimes even classical musicians. Like, I've never played in a symphony orchestra, but for me, it would be very weird playing the third on the flute, say, without knowing that I'm playing the third. I'm just playing the note on the...
So you like to know where you're sitting in a chord.
Yeah, but is that how it feels? Or do you just, as a musician, do you always know your role in... Can you feel that you're kind of now on the root in the chord? Or is that... You don't think that way?
I think so. I mean, if I'm sat in an orchestra, which is rare, because obviously there is some orchestral works that require saxophone. I know where I'm at roughly. I mean, I've got good ears, but I wouldn't say, I'd know if I was tonic or third or whatever. But I think, yeah, as a single line melody musician, you don't. I definitely think more melodically in terms of harmonic rather than harmonically. And I would always hear a melody before I heard chords, but I know whether I'm supposed to be prominent in certain places and things. In the show as well, a lot of the time I'll have harmony, or we do also have the freedom to add harmony if I'm playing, because a lot of the time I'm playing the same line as the fiddle. Sometimes I just add something interesting.
That's something else I want to ask you, like, because all of that music is very fiddle based. Those melodies, it comes from the Irish folk music, which is very like fiddle based music. Is it challenging playing those runs on the sax?
The breathing is an issue.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because you need to breathe at some point.
Yeah, I mean, you could stand there and circular breathe it, but you'd look really weird because your cheeks have to puff out, and they'd be like, "Is she all right?"
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's always places that make sense to take a breath, but it is full on, and if you don't have, I find like I'm lucky that I have classical training, to have gone in and had to adapt in a folk style, and and there's jazzy bits of it as well. Because I have the proper technique to be able to play for that long and to play that fast and to make an even sound across everything. So it's okay. But there are jumps like up the register, like, going from really low. There's one bit and it's like dun da da da, and you have to go da da da. And on the saxophone, that's so hard to do that really low down just because it's so resistant. So there are really tricky corners for sure.
Yeah.
But you can kind of make it your own.
What about ornamentation? Because that's kind of a part of the sound as well, isn't it?
Yeah. See, that's something that I actually still don't know a lot about, especially in a folk style. I often ask a lot of my friends, is there a specific way you have to do this? The turns and things, or can you do it in your own way? I still don't really know the answer to that, but I kind of just, each fiddle player does it differently. So it depends who I'm playing with. But I always tend to think like more of a linear way, in that I'm thinking forward and long phrasing. And as long as I'm thinking like that, I can add various inflections if they make sense. But I would always think of like playing long phrases rather than thinking vertically. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because I think a lot of the tunes, they like, not all notes are equal for the melody. Like those notes that you're referring to, like down there, they're kind of just providing some context for the high notes.
Yes,
in a way, like at least in many tunes.
Yeah, so, and there's bits like, obviously the top notes are the melody, or like da 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 da, and that's hard. And I'm always thinking, how do I get an even sound across the whole thing? But actually, like you're saying, those aren't the most important thing. It's the top note that should be speaking. So yeah, it's fun. It's good to find your way through those things.
And I mean, that's one thing, going back to like difference between genres. That's one thing I learned through folk music, to really pay attention to the melody, because since I was such a harmonic, harmony focused musician before I got into folk, it was nice to work with a type of music that is mainly melodic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in Irish music, there are no chords really. Traditionally, that's kind of a newish invention.
Yeah. Because there's lots of I always find it really fascinating. Well, yeah, when I see like groups of musicians, and this may sound really weird to you, but for me, it's quite impressive, because I would never have done this. You can get together and just play a session and go and vibe off each other and just do it. And unless you're, I guess, a jazzer, so you would know, you can kind of do that if you're jamming with a group of people. But classical musicians, oh my goodness, you drop a couple of those people in with that group and they would be lost. They would have no idea what to do, how to respond,
No, it's completely different.
Totally different, yeah.
But like, if you dropped any of those guys down in a chamber group, they wouldn't know. So
that's true.
It kind of goes both ways.
That is true. I do like, I think a lot of classical musicians, they rely on that kind of safety net of having actual music in front of you, though. And I think that's something else the show has really brought to me, is playing from memory. I'd never played from memory before I did the show. And it was so scary, because...
I can imagine, yeah.
I'd always have sheet music in front of me in a recital or a chamber group setting, or, practicing. Why would I play without the notes? I just wouldn't. And they were saying, the whole thing's from memory. And I was like, oh my goodness. It's 2 hours of music, and the music's hard. It's quick. You have to move around. I'd never been... Because the role is on stage. It's not like you're in a pit orchestra underneath. You are literally on stage the whole time.
Yeah.
There's stage directions. You have to move around, and it's brought like a completely new sort of way. I don't know. It's really expanded the way I think about performance and stage presence and all that stuff. It's really important, especially when you're doing a classical recital. You're standing there, and there's not a lot of connection with you and the audience. No. So I actually do a lot of my performances from memory now.
Yeah, I see what you mean, yeah. So here's another question. Like, how do you feel about the future of classical music, like for your generation of musicians? Because I don't know that many... I don't know that much about classical music. I'm not really in that world, although I do enjoy it. But whenever I'm at the concert house or something, it seems like the average age is about 70. um, there's just something about the music that I think makes it very hard to take it out of that like very posh context and put it into a more casual context. Do you think like how do you see this going forward? Like, do you think classical music needs to change in some way?
Yes,
it's quite a big question.
It was a big question. No, it's good. I know what you mean. I've never been one to go and sit and watch an orchestra. I have done it. I like it. I have a really short attention span.
And I mean, a symphony, like sitting down, listening to instrumental music for 40 minutes, it can be challenging, like.
Yeah, and you know, it's a shame because there's such high quality of performance going on, you know, music making, and people pay such close attention to details and things in that sort of scenario, and it kind of gets missed. You don't really. I mean, maybe some people do, but it's lost on me slightly. And I think, especially, you know, if we're talking about recital performances, that definitely needs, you know, change, and you need to adapt to the times for sure. I mean,
so what's recital performances?
So, like, you know, if you're a soloist and you're playing with a pianist, you're standing behind a stand and you're doing a recital, and it's 2 45-minute sets and it's just you. And I think we've kind of gone past the time now where you don't need to communicate well with audiences, you know, because you walk on, you take a bow, you play, you bow again, you walk off, you walk on, and it's kind of weird. It's weird.
You just do the moves like everyone. Okay, now we stand up and clap and like,
yeah,
like it's just,
and then you know, do we bow again? Okay, let's bow, you know, and it's just
what's up with the bowing? It's like again and again and again.
I know, and you know, if you do a really good performance, fair enough, take 2, but don't do any more.
Yeah, unless it seems to be like just. I don't know, but it's tradition. I get it. That's just how it's been done for.
Yeah, but I think people need to, kind of get with the times a bit more, and I think that's what social media is doing. To be fair, you know, especially over this time, and what I'm trying to do with the challenge, you know, we're putting new modern music out there with a new way of performing it and practicing it with the tracks, putting informal videos up there. You know, people are less afraid of making mistakes in front of people now, which I think is really important too, because mistakes aren't necessarily bad. They build you as a musician and, you know, shape your kind of musical character, if you like. And yeah, I think it does need to change. It needs some sort of better level of interaction between audience and performer.
Yeah, I think that's key.
Yeah, without taking away the quality or making it a gimmick or cheesy. Do you know what I mean? It's a fine line.
Oh, it's a very fine line, because it seems to me what a lot of classical musicians, especially on Instagram, are doing is they're playing pop songs with like classical sound, like lots of vibrato and things like that. Which I don't know. I don't see exactly how that moves things in any direction.
It doesn't, in my opinion.
So well, it's just music in the end, but. Yeah, I'm curious to see anyway, like where it goes, because at some point you need to recruit a new audience, because the people who are currently at the concert halls, they're gone in a few years. So
2 decades.
Yeah, so.
No, I know what you mean. I think, don't get me wrong, being one specific type of musician is great if you're excelling in your area and people love it and all sorts, but I do think being adaptable and being able to play in various different styles, and I don't know, I just think why would you limit yourself? You know, why don't you just open yourself up to all these possibilities and absorb as much information as you can? And you know, like, I also think a lot of classical musicians kind of compromise themselves by playing, you know, like the standard classical pieces of music that everyone would know, right? And I think that's okay, but I think you do need to hold on to the artist within yourself, and not just do what you think people will want to hear. Make what you want to give people something that is appealing. That's the challenge, really. Is making people listen to your voice rather than I'll just play this because people know it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's good advice.
In a rambly way.
Yeah, might be a good note to end on, actually.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, like if people want to learn more about you, where is the best way to do that? Where is the best
definitely.
way? Yeah. Sorry, excuse my
Definitely
English.
my Instagram. I keep that pretty up to date. And there's Facebook, and I'm building a better website. I've taken my old one down at the minute, so all information will be all over there. I'm quite active on social media, so
Yeah,
there's always something going on.
I think your Instagram is brilliant, so...
Oh, thank you very much.
So, yeah, thanks for coming on the show. Really
No problem.
enjoyed
Thanks
the
for
chat.
having me.
No worries.
It's good chats.
Let's hope you get back on the road with the show soon.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Okay, take care.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.
Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this 10th episode of the show. As always, you can find additional information and resources on the show website, thefolkmusicpodcast.com. And you can also follow the show on social media. We're at Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, so hope to see you there as well. Now, this show has truly been a great journey for me, and I'm really excited to see where it might take us in the future. So, thanks for listening. Really appreciate it. And I'll see you back here next week for another episode of the Folk Music Podcast. Take care.